Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. I am Michael McCall.
I'm Steve Pander.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenheimer.
This, as I tweeted out, this is what it feels like when the Whitecaps win. I had almost forgotten what it was like. I know we won that game against Chicago in Orlando. That doesn't count. We've got a lot to talk about. For example, who is going to be the first person to get a Jake Nerwinski goal machine tattoo?
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of when he scored that goal. It was very Jordan Harvey-esque, being in the box like that and pouncing on a shot.
I think that's a good comparison. But yeah, he obviously doesn't have the pedigree that Jordan Harvey, has. You got to be happy for Jake. But yeah, I mean, like you, Michael, yeah, definitely surprised. I mean, based on how I thought things were going based on our pregame chat. And I got some things right, but not everything right.
I felt I jinxed it when it was 2-1 and I tweeted out, oh, this is exciting. We're going to be able to talk about a win on the post-game show. And then about 3 minutes later, TFC levelled it up. But it's fine. They came good in the end. So we've got a lot of things to get into. I've taken some notes for this one, and I've jotted down some notes from the post-game scrums. Right, let's kick things off. The lineup. There was a few surprises. Some omissions that were maybe surprising, but when you saw that lineup, Godoy was back in. We were back to 4 in the back. We had Theo Bayer, Lucas Cavallini leading the line. Jordi Reyna not even in the game day 18. When you saw that lineup, what were your initial thoughts?
My initial thought that I wasn't surprised at all about the midfield because there's no other options. Apparently now, this is the midfield going forward until they get some guys back. I was a little bit surprised about the Jordi Reyna. I thought everything had been solved and resolved. I don't know if it's a knock in training or they announced anything. I didn't. I might have missed it in the broadcast or something.
Well, the broadcast did say something, which I had to sound down for a big chunk of the broadcast because I was still editing my East Fife podcast. Word was that it was more disciplinary things. Now, MDS was asked post-game if that was the true, and he's like, no, that's been picked up completely wrong. That is not the case. But
maybe Paul was talking about what had happened before.
I'm thinking it might be that.
He made it sound like it was in the present or something like that. So maybe that's where there was miscommunication. But
I think that might have been what it was. I mean, for me, he was healthy. He's not on the game notes as being injured. If it's not a disciplinary thing, he's surely getting traded. And you want to keep him healthy and not injured.
The other surprises were Godoy being on the right-hand side. I didn't expect him to. I thought if he comes back, he maybe starts in the middle. Not something where he runs up and down and possibly injures himself again. And then the other surprise was the fact that Rose was still in the back line and Ranko was taken off. I was surprised about that.
Yeah.
Just a quick update for you from the chat. Apparently, MDS said on the radio that Reyna needs to show more in training.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's very interesting because on Friday on Reyna's Instagram, he posted, "Good training session, feeling really good."
Maybe that was in order to get ahead of the story.
Interesting.
Yeah, and if you're being outperformed in training by, I know maybe he's got a better attitude now, but if you're being outperformed by David Milinkovic, Google his stories from England. If you're being outperformed by him in training, that's not a good sign for you at all.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about what you were surprised about. I agree with some of that, what Steve said. In one sense, though, I wasn't surprised about Reina, not because I thought or knew there was issues, but just based on what they've done recently, I wasn't surprised that he didn't start. And like in Orlando, he's very useful off the bench. I was surprised about Godoy because I didn't know if he was ready to go or not. And it looked like they were setting that up to be like a 45-minute first outing for him, which worked out okay. Maybe we'll talk about that more later. I was probably more surprised by the attempt at a diamond in midfield. I don't know if you can call it a true diamond or not, but how they set that up, I didn't see that coming. And it feels like MDS and the coaching staff are literally trying anything to get things going, and maybe they've hit on something with what they did tonight, because I think it helped them. It helped them in midfield have numbers against TFC. I just thought they were going to suffer more out wide, and they did in one sense, but not enough to lose the match.
Because especially if you consider 43 crosses for TFC against 11, but the thing is that percentage-wise, TFC only connected on 19% of those crosses, so that was a big difference there.
Yeah, I was just getting the stats up. 22 shots for TFC to 7 for us. You can have as many shots as you want. If they go in, who cares? If they don't go in, then you've got issues.
And the thing is 9 on target too. And they scored 2 on 9, while Vancouver scored 3 on 3.
Yeah, and then they came close. There was a couple of saves by Thomas Asal. There was the woodwork kind of saved us. And I think it was written in the stars that tonight was going to be the night. And I asked MDS after the match just what his overriding feeling was coming out of it. Was it satisfaction? Was it relief? Was it joy? And for those of you listening on the podcast, I'll play for you just now what he said. The difference in the team tonight, the passion that was shown, the fight coming back a couple of times in the game to continue to go ahead. What was it that was different? What was it that clicked tonight that you feel was missing on that road trip?
Yeah, like I said it a lot of times, please don't see it as an excuse. Just see it as me telling you a narrative that what happened. And when we came back from MLS's back in Orlando without us being a team there because so many pieces missing, and then we come back from the quarantine of 14 days and train, and it's like if everything was thrown so fast at us to go to Toronto and Montreal, but now we had some time to work, and we had some time to prepare, and we had time to have all the guys together. Like you said, it was a win of fight and commitment and guys doing things with passion, but it wasn't very good. It wasn't very good in some parts of our game. Again, we have to grow with the ball. We have to, if we grow with the ball, we're going to have even more opportunities to score. Defensively, in 1v1 situations, we didn't close down all the time very well and aggressive. I think, look, the margin to progress is so high, and to do that while you win is important.
What was your overriding feeling at the end of that? Was it joy? Was it satisfaction? Was it just relief to finally get that win again?
Yeah, no, I would tell you, you touch it well. I think it was more relief to get the 3 points and keep working and keep trying to do things in training to better the team. But was it fully joy? No, I think, tomorrow we have training. I'm going to work with the group that didn't play, and another group's going to recover. And then we have Monday off, and then we have 4 sessions to prepare again. And look, it depends what we want to be about. If we want to be a team that grows and that wants to have a winning mentality and keep growing as an organization, we have to hold ourselves accountable that it was good 3 points, good win, good to score, but so much to still work.
He's the gaffer. You can't try it on with him. He's the gaffer. Even when he's on a limb. He's the gaffer. When his back's against the wall, has the answer to it all. He's the gaffer.
It was relief, and it obviously happy to get the points. He knows there's things to work on, so there's some joy there as well. But just the relief that there was positive signs, because he needed to see a reaction from this squad. And Jake Nerwinski talked about it in his post-game scrum as well. When they got back from the trip out east, they all sat down, they had a meeting as a group with the management, and then the players sat down without the management and had a meeting themselves. So whatever was said worked. And I mean, there's a lot still to improve on, and we'll get through all that as we go through it. But I mean, I'll be honest, when we agreed we were going to do a live post-game show, I was kind of dreading it, because I thought, I don't want to have to sit here for an hour and a half and just be all negative again, because it wears you down. And I'm relieved, because it's a sense of relief. It's a weight off your shoulders that we're getting to talk about some positive stuff with the club. That's why we want to be here. We want to be talking positively about the club. And yes, there's a lot that was not good tonight, but let's focus first on the positives. And we scored 3 goals. We were having a little chat. I think Zach had posted it in our chat just before we took the lead off. It was a novel game plan the Whitecaps seemed to have, which was playing the entire match in their own half to start with, because we were struggling to get out of that half and just get that ball moving at all.
The game did not start well. The game started. It was like a continuation of the previous 2 matches, and I think something needs to be said too about the TFC lineup and how they approach things, because there was obviously things that were going to be changed. Like Michael Bradley's injured, so Liam Fraser comes in, and Akinola's fit, so they want to get him some time, so they start him ahead of Josie
for an easy game like this.
Exactly. The biggest thing, though, and I can't remember. I think he played one or both or parts of both. But one of the key figures for TFC, whatever you think of him, whatever you think of his quality or what he's worth or whatever, one of the most significant players for TFC in this 3 or 4 year run has been Chris Mavinga, because they are not very great at the back, and they need Chris Mavinga and his pace and his defensive abilities to help compensate. And Laurent Simon has a lot of great footballing attributes, but he has not been great defensively in his time in MLS since, well, going back to maybe Montreal. Maybe even that's why I think Bradley let him leave LAFC.
Well, you saw Theo Bair just leave him for dead.
When I step back and look at the game as a whole, one of the most significant things about it was Mavinga not starting in terms of things that impacted the game. But you're right, Michael. The game started, and it looked like Vancouver just was like, you have to assume it was not the plan, but they just literally felt like they sat back, or they allowed TFC to just dictate the play and just I don't know if they dropped deep or they just didn't push up, the few times they did clear the ball, whatever. But those first, whatever it was, 15, 16 minutes, it was not fun to watch. It was not good to watch. It felt, again, like another training session. And all the Whitecaps had were like clearances and long balls and nothing going forward. And then out of nowhere, one ball played wide, a really good cross in, not great defending. I believe it was Simon who was at fault. And you have a nice finish by Lucas Cavallini, and Vancouver's in the lead.
It felt like to me like TFC was looking to get rolling right off the bat, and they were looking at Vancouver as a wounded animal and not letting them get any kind of strength or whatever, keep them down, get that early goal, and completely sap any kind of goodwill they have at playing at home. And that's what it felt like to me. And I think Vancouver, I don't think they had the people to play and kind of be able to take that on. They weren't able to break out or anything like that and maintain possession because they're not a possession team. So that kind of really went against Vancouver. I think that's the reason why. I think TFC really wanted to get that early goal. And the fact that Vancouver, like Zach said, Vancouver got that early goal, Baldissimo with a great switch. We don't see that often at all, like where somebody's – and then because of the great switch, Ali had so much time on that left-hand side to set up the cross.
Oh, it's a lovely cross as well. Perfectly swung in by Ali.
And it wasn't easy for Cavallini to get that because that bounced off the ground, and it could have bounced any which way, but it was a solid bounce, and he headed it straight in.
You can imagine the relief as well going through Cava. He talked during the week that his confidence was still there. It's not been knocked. He was taken off penalty duty. It didn't say who was going to be taking the penalties, probably Ali, but it was said that if there's a penalty, Cava is not taking the penalty. So it's like, phew. But
or they could have declined. They should decline penalties from now on.
Oh, actually, since we're talking about penalties, what did you make of TFC's penalty midweek? The farcical thing where you're 1-0 down, you've got a chance to tie it up against local rivals, and you just think, oh, I'm going to be a smart ass and try a circus trick.
I mean, the fact that if it had been a 0-0 game, it would be different. But even then, it wasn't even just that. It was those things you said, Michael, but it was more. They were going for the opportunity to break the record for most whatever wins or undefeated games or whatever it was in MLS history in league play or something ridiculous. And to lose it on that was awful. And the clips that TSN played in terms of the impact, I forget who it was. Was it Brogier? No, it wasn't Brogier. I forget who it was, but I think they were wearing a mask. But saying look, when you disrespect the game that way, when you disrespect your opponents that way, this is what should happen to you, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And it felt
I can't Panenkas. I can't be bothered with because I just think it's showboating for the sake of showboating, and it's a bit disrespectful to your opponents as well. And you're making it all about you and not the team. If you're a few goals up and you do it, maybe, but there's no excuse for that. And I know Cruyff did it years ago. It was like when the first ones, Cruyff was the one that did this, and yeah, legend. It's disrespectful. It's idiotic. And I mean, there's questions actually as to whether the goal should have stood, but there was a bit of encroachment, so maybe it should even have been retaken because there was encroachment by both teams. But either way, it was idiocy.
The real encroachment was from Piatti, which that doesn't allow it to be retaken. That's why it wasn't given, and that's why they didn't get to take it again. But
it was just idiotic.
It was ridiculous.
And the thing is I think also you were mentioning Cruyff. I think Messi and Suarez actually did it and super successfully did it with Barcelona. But the thing is about that is, and the thing is, the karma really hit them hard in that game too because they lost Bradley in that game, and now they lose this game. It's like what if this is an amazing turnaround where they start losing and Montreal actually makes it in because they're pumped up right now. I'm assuming after this result,
we're still in with a shout here.
I was going to say, Steve, so you want Montreal to beat Vancouver in the next 2 games, eh?
No, nothing like that at all. I'm just saying that from their perspective, that they have they at least they have a chance now going forward.
So do we, and as long as there's a chance, it keeps us alive and it keeps us something to talk about. And if it isn't us, and I can't believe I'm saying this after everything that went on in the past, I hope it is Montreal. They're a likeable team right now under Thierry Henry. They're playing some nice football, and I feel once he fully has them clicking, because he's sorted the defence out, it feels, once he's got that attack clicking, which hopefully doesn't come in the next 2 games against us, but I think they're going to be a real contender under him. So, we covered the first goal. It's 1-0 Whitecaps. It's like, woohoo-hoo, against the run of play, very much. 8 minutes later, Cava's best childhood friend, Jonathan Osorio, makes it 1-1. Well taken goal. You have to ask questions though about the space that was given, not to him, but to Pozuelo on the edge of the box. That was a lot of room. And again, it's what we went back to last year. Midfield not closing, tracking guys down and giving these guys acres of room to do what they want with the ball.
Yeah, this was Baldissimo with that. It wasn't able to close down. I think it was Baldissimo and possibly Tybert. I can't remember if it was Baldissimo and Wosu. But yeah, he had and it was a well taken, like you said, right off before he even hit the ground. He basically volleyed it before he hit the ground and just sliced it in there. Hassel with no chance at all in that one.
Yeah, it was very, very poor marking at the back post.
Oh, Godot, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if they said on the broadcast or we were talking about it or what, but it felt like they were targeting him.
Which would make
knowing that it was
sense
pushing back.
because
Yeah.
he's just in, and it's like it's not his number one position. Although he did play well towards the end of last season when he was tried out there. Godoy though was pulled off at half time, so check that off the AFTN bingo box. Lucky lad. I tried that, didn't work. Had to just make do with a coffee. But MDS said afterwards he just felt that if things weren't going for him, he was getting a bit tired out there, so he brought Jake on. It made sense. I was concerned at half-time, though, that TFC were getting back into it. When they tied it up at 1-1, I was like, oh, here we go, just because of what the possession was. But I mean, full fair play at the Caps. The second half, they came out with a belief, and yeah, TFC again dominated quite a bit of the match.
Especially the first 10 minutes.
Yeah. But we didn't give up, and that was the good thing. We didn't give up a goal. Obviously, we didn't give up either, but we didn't give up a goal. But then 2-1. What a strike by Baldy. Take a bow. And I don't know what was better, the strike or the celebration afterwards.
The strike.
Okay.
And he landed the celebration, though.
Yeah.
Which is good.
He channeled his inner Robert Earnshaw by landing and not his inner Andre Lewis by not.
Yeah.
Of course, Andre Lewis did that in a pre-season game against Juvic.
Yeah.
Pick your moments, son.
But he made it on television with that.
True.
Yeah, that's true. They showed, I don't know if it was in the broadcast or it was just the Sportsnet after, they showed a video of him doing that celebration when he was 8 years old. Tonight's was a little bit better than when he was 8.
Oh, I never saw that. That's fantastic. I was really pleased for Baldy because like we've known the three Baldy brothers that came through the residency. There is a fourth one, but Mark was the first. He's playing soccer locally. He's involved in coaching now. Matthew, we know, is with Pacific FC. We'll talk a bit of CPL at the end of this as well. He's having a good season under Pamadou Ka. But for Michael, with everything that he went through last season, so delighted for him to be getting a run in the team, but to get that goal as well. What that will do for his confidence is tremendous. I mean, MDS said afterwards, he challenged him that he has to show that he deserves to be in the starting lineup and keep his place in the team. I think he did that tonight, not just with a goal, but with a lot of his overall play.
Well, he got the second assist on the Cava goal with that switch. He got this goal, and the tackling he did. There was I know we said something that he didn't, cut him down, the Pozuelo there on TFC's first goal. But there were moments, especially in the second half, where he really was disrupted TFC's flow through the midfield. There were minor little things. He would get the ball back, chip it away off them. He wouldn't be able to maintain possession, but he kind of slowed them down. He chipped away at their possession. So I think very important things that he did there in the midfield.
Okay, so Michael, you mentioned his injury or whatever last year, but he was in preseason, right?
Yes.
Okay, is it just Inbom Wong that has kept him out of the team? Because when you look at the squad now, you're like, how has this guy not played before, or not played more before?
Yeah, I think it is Inbom, and the fact that he was unproven. So, do you throw him in at the start of a season? No.
Or was he? I think he did have some, not niggling injuries, but he did have some blowback from the other injury from last year. He wasn't.
I think he had a
100%
couple of
fit.
injuries last year, if I remember right. I don't think it was one.
Yeah.
I think he had a setback from the first injury.
And he wasn't fully fit. He wasn't preseason, but he wasn't fully fit to go for a full 90.
But I mean, if you're looking at midfielders that you were going to play, it's obviously it's going to be Owusu, it's going to be Tybert. That I know that's arguable, but just the way that things have gone, Tybert, Andy Rose, Inbom, they're all ahead of him in the pecking order. And then depending what formation MDS plays, there's not a lot of room for midfielders in there.
But would you say that's changed now based on these last two games?
Yeah. Well, I think it's changed now, not just by his performance, but I think Mark is trying different formations and trying to maybe utilise the midfield a bit more, because that's where everything's fallen down this year with the midfield. I mean, we've been able to score goals when strikers get the ball. And something that MDS said about Cava after the match was that he feels that Cava needs to feel that he's not the only guy that is getting attention from defenders. So there has to be other threats out there. And I feel we haven't really had those other threats. And part of it is because the midfield's not been creating to release other things. So everything has fallen on Cava's shoulders. And we know Cava's a good striker. He's shown it throughout his career. I said in last week's show about MDS, you don't become a bad coach overnight. You don't become a bad striker overnight either. You need to have the service. And Cava's not the kind of guy that makes things happen himself. He relies on service. And that's why the midfield's been important. And I think that's what's changed now, that we're going to see a more impactful midfield. And, I mean, Baldissimo stood out for me tonight in the midfield. Owusu and Tybert were kind of invisible. I was watching it with half an eye because, as I said, I was editing my other podcast, but I didn't feel that I noticed him.
I noticed when he had to go get a new boot.
And I noticed at the end when he was down in a bit of pain also as well, whatever had happened.
Oh, yeah, Uso, yeah. I think I'm going to Russell.
Yeah. But I mean, that made it 2-1. For those of you listening to this on the podcast, we'll take a little break now and we'll be back chatting more Whitecaps after this.
Hi, I'm Marc Dos Santos, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
I don't give a fuck about the past or glory days gone by. All I care about right now is that wee mole inside your thigh. And my confidence might crumble, but my brio is unbroken. Let me loosen all your knots, let our bodies be awoken. It's been another 7 years, it's showing round the eyes. Another 7 years entombed in lethargy and lies. But let's dig out our old clothes and prepare for celebration. I am the son of sleep, all I need's an invitation.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's the first song of this month's AFTN Artists of the Month. And for September, we've stayed in Scotland with the fantastic band out of Falkirk called Arab Strap, a band that was formed in 1995, broke up in 2006, returned for some live shows in 2016, and now, 4 years later, they're back with new music, their first new single in 15 years. And that was a little snippet of it that we played for you there. It's a song called The Turning of Our Bones, inspired by the Famadihana ritual of the Malagasy people who dance with the corpses of loved ones. What more could you ask for in a soccer podcast? The band will be coming out with a new album in 2021. Really can't wait for that. And we've got some fantastic songs spanning their career coming up for you this month. But enough of the music chat. Let's get back to the football chat now and let's get back to talking more Vancouver Whitecaps. We'll get to your chat soon. There's a lot of stuff in the YouTube chat. We've had a lot of tweets as well, so we're getting to all of that. But if we continue just breaking down the game quickly. So, I mean, it was 2-1. And I was feeling confident because I thought, yeah, we'll be under pressure. But I fancy us to see it out. But then when Pozuelo tied it up in the 71st minute,
that was an easy goal for him to finish off.
It was more poor defending, which was the story of the night, really, from the Whitecaps' point of view. If you're looking at the downside tonight, it was the defending. Jake, I need to maybe see it again. I blamed him in our chat, saying that Jake was at fault for it. Yeah. He certainly let him get goal side off him and didn't really seem to do much of a challenge. But then you can't do much of a challenge in the box without giving away a penalty. But he let him get in goal side of him. And then after that, there's not a lot you can do.
Well, Jake had somebody behind him, too, that he was marking as well. So
yeah,
he had
like
two
guys.
And you could almost say it could be Andy Rose's fault partially. You could also say one of the midfielders should have came back to cover and put another man in the box to cover on that. So there were a number of things, but it was a perfect cross by Piatti on that one. But it was so easy because there was nobody around Pozuelo to even Like, I think even if somebody was a half step closer to him, that would have put pressure on him. Maybe he doesn't get the right header on there, but it was way too easy for that one.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good finish, don't get me wrong. It was a great cross pinpoint onto his head, but yeah, it was disappointing, and I really feared the worst at that point.
Yeah, in a moment we're going to talk about how Jake's goal ends up winning the match, but you see why Eric Godoy has an opportunity to play right back. Because even though he was not great on the first goal, I think overall he's probably better defensively than Jake Nerwinski is as a right back. Now Jake might arguably provides more going forward, but when we're talking about defensively, Jake did not look good on that goal. And if he had two guys there, then that's where you got to communication comes into it as well, right? But yeah, the defending was defending on the goals in a couple. Well, we'll talk about it later, but defending on the goals didn't all look good.
Yeah, I feared the worst. Wasn't to be though, because the Whitecaps showed some real grit, some real fight. Jake Nerwinski, goal machine, as we talked about at the start, and it was a well-taken goal. He said he's targeted getting more in the six this year. He said that at the start of the season when he got the goal in that home opener. And it's great. It's what we need from both our fullbacks. It was nice for him because you were starting to think, well, he's not in the starting lineup. We've got Godoy now in at right back. Bikel can play right back. Mukalumbwa can play right back. Is the writing maybe on the wall for Jake? You have to wonder things like that when he's left out the starting lineup. But came on and was hungry, put in a good shift and well taken goal.
Yeah, you're talking about the fullbacks. It started with the fullback because Ali Adnan threw in the free kick first. Andy Rose picked it up, sent it right back into the box, and then pretty much slotted in. I think he was almost the second wave of players that were in that box. So it came right to him. He put it in, and it's not for a fullback. That's probably not even an easy finish. You think you would be able to put it in, but he came in really fast to him. He was able to slot it in, so it's a good finish. And it was funny because Baldissimo made up for his mistake on the defensive side by scoring a goal, and then he got Andy Rose and Jake combining to make up for their mistake on the goal by Pozuelo. So good on both of them to get that lead back that they had given up.
Yeah. You got to be happy for Jake to be able to fight back and provide the winning touch there. In terms of the match as a whole, the official man of the match was Baldissimo. Would you guys agree with that?
I would put Hassal ahead of him, and we haven't talked about him yet.
No,
but I would put Hassal over Baldissimo at this point.
That's what I was going to say too. What do you think, Michael?
I think I would have given it to Baldissimo actually.
I'm with Steve. To me, there was at least 4 very quality saves and 1 or 2 match-winning saves from Hassal that I think it's a 4-3 or a 5-3 game without him.
Yeah, I think if you put in top 5 plays of the game for the Whitecaps, I think 4 of them are Hassal and 1 is Baldissimo. The 2 saves that really stood out to me was the one just before the half. That diving save that was headed to the top corner, and then the last chance that they had, I think 82nd minute, Osorio right in the box and almost dead on. It went right to him, but it was a hard shot. He could have easily spilled it, and that could have been disastrous either.
It wasn't though. We held on for the win. What more could you want on a Saturday night? Just before the Labour Day weekend, it was not a laboured performance. There was a lot of improvement still needed. MDS said after the match, might be paraphrasing a little bit, but pretty much he said he's happy with the 3 points. And he says he might be coming across as being hard, but he just feels that there's still so much room for improvement in that team. And everyone that spoke, Cava, Jake, they said the same thing. It's 3 points, but we still have so much to improve on.
The thing is, the one thing I'd like to see them improve on is improving their possession, but also making something of their possession. The first goal was a quick counterattack and the other 2 goals were set pieces, basically, or extended set pieces, or whatever you want to say. So it'd be nice if they had possession and could do something from it. I think that would be the number one improvement, other than defensive play. But I think if you do that, your defensive play will improve as well.
When you're talking about this match as a whole, yeah, I would say Vancouver is worth the win. However, like Steve is saying, the way they got the win was off, the first goal was nice, a nice build up, and, but the other 2 goals are both from set pieces or offset pieces or broken second phase, whatever. But so they really need to work at creating more from play. And that's where when you talk about Hassal's contribution, he's like, they're giving up quality chances that he's having to stop, that you don't see them in turn making, other than the one for the opening goal. So that's really that. I agree with Steve. They need to work at. It feels like as a group collectively, creating chances better in possession and not only from the counterattack.
If we're talking about goalkeepers, then I think Thomas had a great game. I think he's really grown into the position. He's getting stronger with every game. He looks more commanding. He's looking more confident. How worried were you when he went down at the end there, and Brian Meredith, who wasn't medically cleared to play today, we had Isaac Bomer on the bench, and he was all stripped, looking like he might have to come on. How concerned were you at that point that we would be on our 4th string keeper?
A little, like, it might be 5%, but I feel like Hassal played like the veteran thing and milked it for everything that he had.
Yeah.
Like, I think this guy is so cool under pressure. Like, even after, he celebrated the win, then he turned around and he gave that same like smirk that he's been giving. And then I think I remember talking to you guys off air, and I kind of said he kind of has that look of the Joker.
Yes. From
the Batman. Like, he has that kind of look where he could play the Joker if they ever wanted, as a Halloween costume or something like that. He's got that look. So he's got that smirk, and I think he knows what he's doing. And I think in that case, I don't think it was that much of a concern for me.
Okay, let's keep this theme going then. If he's the Joker, who would be the Riddler? Who is the mystery man in the Whitecaps?
Jordi Reyna right now, because nobody knows if he's coming or going.
Mr. Freeze?
Well, it would have been Lucas Cavallini before, because he was so cold, like ice cold for scoring goals.
I'm thinking Freddie Montero. He seems frozen out of the lineup right now.
Yeah, well, he was in the 18, wasn't he? Or
he was, but he didn't come on. The Penguin.
Ooh.
Well, Baldissimo's kind of smaller, right?
I probably go with Tybert.
Hey, Baldissimo's smaller, and he has those. I mean, the Penguin has those little robots that are bombs. And he had a bomb.
I'd actually say Tybert, and I'll give you the reason afterwards. I'm not going to say that live on air.
Oh, okay.
And it's got nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with his height.
Oh, wait. No, I don't know if this is for this part, but we might be ahead of this. But I think Naveed just said in the comments that Jeff Anderson should be one of those characters.
Who would be Two-Face? Or should we just leave our discussion there?
Yeah. Let's stop right there. There's too many options, and none of them are probably on the pitch.
Okay, let's move on then.
That was a great game, Michael. Naveed says Jeff Anderson should be the Riddler. This is like, what does he do? I'm guessing.
Who would be Bane? Probably Wondolowski, because he's the Bane of the Whitecaps, always scoring against us. Ra's al Ghul. I could go on for this for a while here. This is great. This is my kind of...
There's so many people that would be... Ra's al Ghul is... I don't want to get in trouble, because this is a lot of YouTube.
Okay, let's move on. Last Batman thing that we'll say then is the trailer for the new film, which is on suspension at the moment because Batman has COVID. I'm stunned by that. He wears a mask. How can he get COVID? But anyway, that aside, I love that they're using Nirvana's Something in the Way, because that's one of my all-time favourite Nirvana songs that I feel does not get the recognition that it deserves.
Yeah, it was a good trailer. It was a perfect song too.
People are inspired by this in the chat.
Oh, cool.
People are saying Jeff Anderson is more like Two-Face, I think. But then Caleb Wilkinson also says, Tybert is clearly Raza Ghul. People keep saying he's done, and he keeps coming back.
Oh, very good.
Not a bad shout.
Let's get to some of the chats now. And also for those of you listening on the podcast, you'll be delighted to know that this is also the start of Football Violence Awareness Month. And for those of you in the stream, I'll just show off my T-shirt that I'm wearing to celebrate the thing tonight. And I've also, because I'm doing the East 5 podcast now, we've kicked off Football Violence Awareness Month and that. So we're like across 2 continents, we are honouring the fallen. The football hooligans who have nothing that they can do right now because of COVID. They can't go and meet. They like to wear their masks, obviously, but I mean, that aside. But we'll get to that when we get to Wavelength. Let's get to some of the chat just now. So let's kick things off. The very first message, Alberto's said he's glad we're back. He saw the Whitecaps highlights, didn't watch the full game, and he's surprised that they won. He just hopes that they keep the momentum going. And that is the thing now, because, yep, we're cock-a-hoop. We've got 3 points. We're not bottom of the West. We're actually third bottom now because Colorado and San Jose drew tonight 1-1. So we're third bottom, 9 points from 9 games. So we've got our points per game up to a full 1 now. It was looking as we were the only team in MLS that was below 1. But this doesn't count for much if we don't keep it going. We've got to take something from these next 2 games against Montreal.
This is probably the appropriate time to read this text I got last week. It said, for a moment, I thought you were in my neighbor's backyard. Nope, he was just listening to your podcast. The spouse of one of my coworkers.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
let us know where you
not
listen to the podcast. If you listen to us in any exotic places, let us know.
I don't consider Abbotsford being exotic.
That was actually Kunarad's neighbor.
I-class Abbotsford has been the interior, so I think we're fine. Anyway, Norberto says, I think Reina not being on the 18 at least is a sign that he and MDS are at odds now. If Reina is in MDS's doghouse, I can't see Reina staying here before the season ends as Peru starts World Cup qualifying soon. You know what? I just want him to go now. Norberto follows that up by saying Reina wants to play for the national team and needs playing time to be considered by the coach. But if Reina wants playing time, he needs to show he wants playing time. I am all for him moving on just now. He does not give us the consistency we need. Yes, he's a talent, but we need more than that. We need also a guy that's going to give it all for his coach. And it does feel that, and we talked about some senior players that we didn't name last week. You can join the dots here. But Reina needs to show the coach the respect and play that he wants to be in this team.
I hear you. I totally hear what you're saying, Michael. But looking at it from another perspective, if you go back to the comments that you shared last week about, I think it was last week, about Axel Schuster saying, oh, yeah, no, MDS is good for this year. Beyond this year, we're going to see what's going to happen. Surely that has to come into play in terms of, like, if MDS, if Schuster and the people he works with have already determined that MDS is not going to be here next year because it's the end of his, the first 2 years of his deal, and it's, option year.
He's got a 3-year deal.
Whatever, yeah, whatever. They're going to get rid of him, whatever. Would you not think, hey, we want to see what our new coach can get out of Jordy? Now, I say all that. I don't want MDS to go. I'm not one of those people. But I'm just saying, to talk about the other side of what you just said, him not playing for this coach, it seems like that is at least part of the case. But if you have only a few games left this year, why would you get rid of him if you're also planning on bringing in a new coach? You know what I mean? Unless you get money or something that's, something in return, which...
I mean, to me, he's too up and down. He's like the seesaw of the Whitecaps playground. What other players could be playground things? Who would be the swing set? Who would be the monkey bars? But we'll save that for next week. We've already done the Batman thing. So let's get back to some more chat. David Masinchi. Great fight by the boys. So happy to see Hassal and Baldy grow. Let's be honest though, TFC is at another level. On another day, TFC wins this easily. And yeah, I mean, MDS touched on it after the match. The difference in quality between TFC and the Whitecaps is phenomenal. TFC are the best team in Canada right now. I think Montreal could give them a good run for their money in the future. But, I mean, they do look to be on a different level. and it just didn't happen for them tonight. That sometimes happens. We talked about this in our chat before the match, a lot was made this week, and even Cava spoke about it pre-game, about no one likes to come and play on this turf. And that's a change, because it was the narrative this week. The team played on turf, trained on turf instead of grass, so the players could get used to it, given that advantage, because you're getting teams that's coming that, I don't know, like used to playing on grass, doesn't do much of stuff like that. What do you think is the reason that they're now focusing on playing up the advantage of turf?
I think they're just trying to get in TFC's head or something like that. I think it was just a kind of gamesmanship kind of thing, because they know that people hear that all the time. That people come in and complain about the turf after the game. What did somebody ask him about that, or did he bring it up on his own?
I think he brought it up on his own. I'm not sure. I didn't see it.
Oh, okay.
It was. I think they're asking about advantages of home advantage or something like that. Stu Walter.
Okay.
But no, Michael, I think there's been partly a philosophical change, but like we do know that players used to get fined if they said anything negative about the turf. Now I know what he's saying is maybe not his own opinion or his own perspective on the turf, but I think previous times we would not have heard people say what he said, kind of so openly putting down the turf, but saying, "Hey, we're going to use it to."
He never complained about the turf. He said other teams, other people don't like playing on it. So that's kind of a workaround where he's not complaining about it. He's saying that other people come in and don't like it, so we might as well take advantage of it.
But then, Michael, you also say it sounded like that was kind of coming out of the Whitecaps camp this week.
Well, yeah, because MDS was talking about the fact that they were training on turf because they know it can give them an advantage. So, I mean, just reading between the lines of that, it's like, because we know it's difficult to play in turf and it's not ideal. And I mean, it isn't ideal. What did you think of the crowd noise being pumped in, and there was music getting pumped in as well to the stadium?
I didn't.
I didn't like it either too much. It was. It seemed like there were some people live there as well. It didn't seem like it was like there were some people cheering. How many staff were there? Was there quite a bit, or
I don't know.
Were they what? It's a good question for the
media. I don't know how many media were there. It seemed
not just the media, but like I feel like especially when they were announcing the goals, and they said thank you. The announcer says thank you, and there were a lot of people that said you're welcome, and it seemed like a live thing. So maybe they had people huddled around the microphone.
That was pumped in, I think.
Was that pumped in? Because that's what, so. Like there were only. It looked like there were only a few people that said you're welcome and stuff like that.
And Michael, was it pumped into the stadium or into the broadcast? Or both?
At the stadium, so the players could hear it.
Like, if you're gonna do that, why would you? It's almost like they did it halfway. Like to me, it was like so quiet and so like, just I don't know. It was just I don't like the idea. Two, I don't think the execution was done in the best way.
I mean, I was stunned when they were pumping it in. That at one point in the broadcast, I heard "Bobby out" shouted from the crowd. I mean, I thought it's really authentic. They've really gone for realism here.
I also remember BC Place is a very cavernous stadium, so if they might have thought their levels were good and it might not have came out across on the TV.
True. Anyway, we will be back with some more Whitecaps chat and some more of your messages from the YouTube stream and on Twitter as well. And we'll be back with all of that after this.
Hi, I'm Jake Nerwinski, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio, 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it's the first of tonight's 3 of a kind songs. for those unaware or that just need a reminder, at the starts of parts 3, 4 and 5, we will play a song, and each song will be connected in some way. Your job is to try and work out what the connection is, and if you've worked out the connection by the end of the second one, have a stab at what you think we might be playing to kick off part 5. What is tonight's link? Well, the song that you heard there is by Glasgow band The Yummy Fur, who will also be a future Artist of the Month. They were meant to be last year, but then they unfortunately had to cancel their gig in November. That was when it was all scheduled for. And obviously with COVID, they've never been able to come back. But that was The Yummy Fur, with a song called Cosmonauts and Carbonauts, the 22nd track from their 60-track 1997 album, Kinky Cinema. What could the link be? And I'm looking for a very specific link this week as well. There's a general one you could get, but we're wanting some specifics. We'll give you the second song to kick off part 4. But for now, let's get back to some more Whitecaps chat and have a look at some of the messages that you've sent us in the YouTube stream and also on Twitter. So, if the club is going with the youth movement, asks Norbertos, get tons of Gam and Tam for Reina now. That's an interesting one because we are starting to build up Gam and Tam. What are we going to do with it?
I think even if they don't, start a youth movement or something like that, I don't think Reina's an extra right now. They have plenty of other players, and they should be bringing in new players anyway. So why not take advantage and get something for him at this point if he wants to move on? And he's been a problem at the Whitecaps. So I think I agree with you fully that he should be gone and moved on.
Here's an interesting one then, just to play on what Zach said earlier. So we all want MDS to continue. Let's just state that for the record now. But let's speculate the hypothetical. If the club feel that they want to move him on at the end of the season, do you give him all this Gam and Tam to spend now, or do you wait to see if a new guy's coming in? And if we don't make any big splashes with this Gam and Tam, is that maybe an indication that they're thinking they might want to go with a new guy and not spend it just now?
Totally understand that, but isn't it Axel Schuster's call to see what players he brings in?
Oh, that's true.
So
I
if he's
keep
okay,
forgetting he's
he's okay with
now and the overseer.
So if he's okay with those players coming in, and if it's whatever system, I'm assuming they want to run a similar system. They said they want to find a system and run it all the time.
Well, yeah, but if you bring a new coaching
in.
staff, a new coach might be like, no, I'm 4-3-3, or no, I'm 3-5-2.
No, I understand. I understand that, but they said that once they bring in this coach, they wanted to have one system and bring in the same type of coach, not like change it back and forth.
What is the identity of the team? And that was something Cava talked about after the game. I'll play that for the folk that's listening on the podcast just now. Just what Cava said when I asked him about the difference in the team now and what it was like out east. Mark talked about there's still stuff that needs to improve, but obviously delighted with the 3 points and delighted with the performance. From being on the pitch, what were the biggest differences that you noticed between the kind of passion, the intensity and the desire that we saw tonight that you feel was maybe missing on that road trip out east?
Yeah, I mean, just to find that identity in this team, we lacked that identity on the road trip. I mean, maybe we needed those 3 games as a wake-up call. I mean, we couldn't afford to lose any more points, and we knew today was going to be crucial for that, and we needed to walk out of here with 3 points no matter what. So I guess just that sense of just thinking of we had to win this game no matter what.
What then do you feel needs to be worked on going into the last 2 games against Montreal? We obviously still don't know what's happening after that, but for these 2 games that we do know is going ahead, what do you feel the team really has to work on now to build on this and not let this just be a one-off?
I mean, we still have a lot to improve. Obviously, today wasn't a really good game from us, a really good performance, but, the main thing we did today was score goals. Not only 1, we scored 3. So, and we walk out of here with 3 points. But yeah, we have a lot to improve on. I think we need to keep the ball more. It's something we lack. We give the ball away too easily. We lose the ball easily, and it's something we need to train on towards these next 2 games remaining.
Hey Jake, I asked Mark and Cava this, so I'll ask you as well. The difference in the team tonight, like there was passion, there was fight, seemed to be desire. It seemed so markedly different to what we saw out in this road trip. What do you put that down to primarily?
Yeah, after this road trip, as you know, we all know that it was very tough, the results that we got. We came back, we had a team meeting with the coaches, and we had a team meeting just the players. And we kind of sat down and we said, this is where we need to turn it. We need to flip the script now. We need to, build, and we need to try to get points whenever we can. And I think coming in tonight, getting 3 points off a very good team, it's definitely something to build off of. And it's something that we really needed at this point in time.
Cava mentioned that he felt the team still really, especially in the road trip, searching for an identity. What do you feel the identity of this team needs to be? And did we see some of that tonight?
Yeah, we're not one of those teams that's gonna spend a bunch of money on, a one big time guy. We do have our DPs, yeah, but we're going to have to be a team that plays together, that believes together. And it's got to be one united group that's going to get us these points.
Jake Nerwinski said that what the identity needs to be and stuff like that. What do you think the identity of this team should be with the personnel that we have just now? Did we get a sign tonight of what that identity is going to be?
Not yet. No, they're not even close to having what. Especially, I remember the first meeting, presser we had with MBS when he explained what he wanted to do with this team. They're not close yet. They're not even a 10. I don't even think they're 10% of what he wanted, especially in that midfield. So no, they're not close yet. So I don't think they have anything right now. Right now, they're kind of playing it. They're on the fly right now. They're playing it on the fly or whatever you want to call it. They're just going week by week and seeing what they can do with the lineup.
Again, the problem with the victory tonight is it does not feel replicable. And so, what is the identity? Bunker and hope. Bunker and take the one chance you get. Bunker and then hope for some set piece goals. Again, not to just take anything away from the 3 points or the performance of the players and their effort tonight, I think was, there for everyone to see. But in terms of an actual identity as a football club, I don't think tonight's a game where you point to and say, no. This is helpful in moving forward and shaping who we are.
Well, Norberto says in the chat that he agrees with you that bunkering and playing counter-attacking works 3 out of 10 times, but it won't get us a lot of points or wins ultimately.
Now, this is probably going to come off pretty negative, but it might be an example. I don't know if you guys agree, but a polished turd is still a turd.
Yeah,
it's probably harsh, but I understand.
I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm just using an example of what I couldn't find a middle of the road example that wasn't too harsh. So I was.
Just the whole lipstick on a pig thing. You put lipstick on a pig.
I was thinking about that one too.
But you put some nice frilly panties on it and a little bow in its hair, and it's very sexy, and it does the job on a Saturday night.
I was going to say that. I was afraid you were going to take a shot at Sandeep or something like that, so I decided not to go with that.
Oh, I'm not touching that.
I thought you would.
Well,
I thought you were going to because it's after 10:30.
Obviously, I would touch her, but
it's after 10:30, so I don't know what you're. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, getting back to the football, the one thing that from tonight that you could say has been in fact, but has been more in word in the recent history, and a little bit brought back by MDS. And out of circumstances, is the Whitecaps can have a part of their identity as a football club that plays young players and that brings through young players. We've had lots of discussion over the years about how either well or poorly they've done at that, but that is another thing from tonight. And again, circumstances have dictated some of that, but Hassal and nets and Baldissimo playing with the South Korean gone and whatever. But that can be a part of your identity, right? When you think about there are clubs around the world that is a very, very big part of who they are, and the Whitecaps can have that. But the problem has been in the past that they've said that this is a part of them, but they haven't really lived it because they've been too worried about getting wins, and they've been too the blurriness between the bottom line and the on-field ambitions it hasn't been clear, right? Which is more important, or which?
Well, I mean, tonight they started 6 Canadians. They brought a further 2 on. There's a bit of an identity there. MDS said after the game he knew the team had goals in them, and he just wants them to be more pragmatic in the final third. So we did see bits of that tonight, but we're still lacking that spark. We're still lacking, and I mean, bunkering. If we bunkered every game and we managed to not concede and we won games 1-0, I know I wouldn't be happy with a lot of people. I would take it because a win's a win. We've had this discussion before. That's just what I think. I know it's not pretty to watch, but it isn't sustainable, and you have to try and do something to get out of it. And I mean, just some more kind of comments just from the chat, and we'll take some from Twitter as well. Then we'll kind of wrap up the Whitecaps chat. So I'm talking Baldy from Navid saying that between the switches, he loves the fact that he plays forward and break lines. It was great quality from Baldy. Naz says Baldy has shown more in tonight's match than Huang ever did here. Only a minor exaggeration, and he's certainly not wrong there, I've got to say. Oh yeah, Meow Mixology. How would the Whitecaps do in the third tier of Scottish football? That's interesting, because I don't know if they actually have the fight, some of the players, to go week in, week out there, because that is a tough league. It's a lot of tough tackling. Someone like Baldissimo, David Norman Jr. before him, they would do very well. David Norman Jr. went and played second tier Scottish football and did excellent there. They should walk most of the matches, but they would be up against some full-time teams that are used to that level. So that would be an interesting one. If we can get some East Fife to fly over, maybe play some pre-season friendlies against the Whitecaps, that's my dream. The Whitecaps go and do a tour of Fife in Scotland.
Now Mixology also says turf is our DP.
It is. It damages players. Oh, Murray Lynn says, am I going to order Chelsea's new third kit? Pink with blue stripes would look smashing on me. Eee. No, but if I'm going to get a pink and blue strip, it's going to be Dulwich Hamlet. I've been wanting one for a couple of years now, but their shipping to Canada is horrendous. And then I wanted to order it when I went back to Scotland, but they had sold out, so I couldn't get one. But anyway, now, some tweets I want to get to. I know there's nothing more boring than just someone sitting reading tweets and emails and stuff, but there is some good stuff here I want to get to. Jonathan at LOJD Vancouver says, we look more comfortable being at home from what I could tell. Played with some fight, which I wasn't expecting. Great strike from Baldy. Good to see Cava get off the mark. Wasn't sure that we were clearly the better team, but we led 3 times, which is impressive considering. And I do feel we have to make this home advantage pay. And, I mean, let's get to the big elephant in the room now. No one knows what's happening next. The next stage of the MLS schedule is expected to get announced midweek, but there's still some big stumbling blocks about what's happening with the Canadian teams. And I think there's some pushback from what I've been hearing from the Canadian teams of, we do not want to relocate to the States. We've got families, players have families. We don't want to be away for a couple of months to do this. I don't know what the answer is, because I don't see the border opening anytime soon. I don't see quarantining ending anytime soon, unless they make special deals for the players just to come in and come out. TFC arrived Friday, stayed Friday night in a hotel, played today. They'd considered flying home tonight, but they're flying home tomorrow. So that's a 3-day trip for them, but they're Canadian. Would the government here be happy for an American team to do that? I don't think so.
Definitely not. Now, haven't TFC in Montreal already secured their places?
But that was the rumour. Potentially, if you were mid-September and the season's going on till December, that's a lot to ask. I wouldn't do it. Dennis at Den_Moren says, Caps finished better tonight. This is 3 goals. Possession was still lopsided. It was like 2/3 to 1/3 for TFC. And at some stages of the match, it was even way more than that. Defensively, the Caps are still a nightmare. Yeah, we won. Everything's okay for now. We don't need to spend any more. Yeah, that is my worry. We need to make moves. And it is going to be interesting if we do make them now or if we hold up.
Where are they? Where are they now? Are they like, because they're giving mixed signals all the time, saying they're going to make moves? Do they want to make moves? Do they want to spend wisely and stuff like that?
NBS says they're actively looking to make moves, and they're looking within MLS. And Kyle Beckett seems to be a guy that's been mentioned. He's now joint leading scorer in the CPL that we're going to talk about next. Yeah, I don't know, but that's it for our Whitecaps chat basically just now. Unless you guys want to say anything else. I
just want to say that, yeah, they do need to do stuff because, like I think it was Dennis or whoever the last two was from said, things aren't okay just because they won a match, right? Like there are still major problems at the football club. I mean, even this week alone, again, if you go on Twitter, some more people talking about how they've canceled their tickets. One person who had tickets from the 70s, one person who has had tickets in Swangard. They're still and they're saying, I don't want to give my money to this ownership group, and that's a problem. Even if that was 2 people, if you're this ownership group, if you work for this organization, you should see that as a problem, not as, oh, we'll just replace those people. And that's really been their attitude up to this point. And they need to change some things because
you saw that tonight. Because the stands were empty.
Yeah. Well, no. The thing is they'll replace these people. The problem is you're not going to replace the people with the results you're getting right now. So that's not going to happen unless you spend money again, because you need to make this team bigger and better.
Well, if you're losing the hardcore, the only thing you're going to replace it with is the casuals that you're hoping to become the hardcore, and that's a tough ask then if you don't have a winning team in the pitch,
or like a squad that intrigues people and. Yeah. No offense to this squad, but it doesn't really intrigue most people.
There's a few players that certainly intrigue me as to what they're doing just now, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
As Meow Mixology just said in the comments, though, hang tough.
But that is it for the Whitecaps chat for now. We'll be back talking football and talking Canadian Premier League in the next part. But to round off this part, we mentioned it earlier. Yes, it's back. Football Violence Awareness Month is back, and we're kicking it off with something a little bit different. Now, you know me, in this section I've been playing lots of English punk bands. Well, I thought I would mix things up a little bit this month to kick things off. We're going to have some French punk music instead. It's a band out of Toulouse in France. This is a song taken from their 2004 album, ST. The band is called Bolshoi, and this is a song called Hooligan.
Causé à la télé, comme la nuit n'a
money's worth.
French punk band Bolshoi there with a song from 2004 called Hooligan, in honour of the West Ham hooligan Black John that was killed outside Anfield many years ago. Thought I'd add a little bit of Gaelic flavour to it since Thierry Henry is bringing his Montreal team to BC Place next weekend. Hope you enjoyed that. We've got some more songs coming up for Football Violence Awareness Month and a couple of different sounding ones as well I've picked for this month, and we'll have those coming up over the next few shows. But we're going to get back to talking football, heading out east to Prince Edward Island and looking at the CPL next, and we'll be back with that after this.
How's it going, guys? I'm Ben Fisk. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it was the second of tonight's Three of a Kind songs from the wonderful 1980s band Camper Van Beethoven. That was The Day That Lassie Went to the Moon, taken from their 1985 album Telephone Free Landslide Victory. Really should have them as Artist of the Month down the line. Some great songs from them over the years. Got quite a lot of their albums on vinyl. Have you worked out what the Three of a Kind connection is yet? We kicked off part 3 with the Yummy Fur, Cosmonauts and Carbonauts, and kicking off this part, Camper Van Beethoven, The Day Lassie Went to the Moon. If you know what the link is, what do you think we might kick off part 5 with? Find out soon. But for now, we're getting back to the football chat. We're heading out east, Prince Edward Island, the Island Games, Canadian Premier League. The first phase is wrapped up. We've whittled down to 4 teams, and we're going to talk about that just now. Force clinched their spot in the phase 2, the final 4, with a draw with Valour FC. And I've got to give Rob Gale and his Valour team full credit. That was a gutsy performance. Rob spoke after the match that they had 9 players injured for this one. And it looked like their goalkeeper, Pantemis, who's played all 7 games, he's on loan from Montreal, he's been fantastic. He injured his ankle as well, and it looked like they had to call up an emergency keeper, but he decided he could play. So, I mean, to put in that performance, and Rob as well, folk could say it's making excuses, but I think he's right. They had 2 very controversial calls go against them. If they'd got those calls in their favour, they could have got an extra 4 points. Obviously, the Queen had balls, etc., etc. But I mean, that's 4 points that puts them into the final 4. That's the fine lines, the narrow margins that Rob will love to talk about and was made a fool of a lot of times for it. But it's true, football's full of that. So, I mean, full credit to Valour. The foundations that Rob Gale is building there, I think is very good for this team's future.
For sure. And considering, I think they were really, I can't remember what their standing was last year, but they were pretty poor.
Well, they got hit with injuries last year as well. It's like they've been so lucky.
and they were bottom of the table. So it's good that they bounced back. They obviously made quite a few changes. And even some of the big changes they made, like Brett Levi's, for example, I don't know if he was healthy for this game, but last game he
was back with his knee. It still wasn't right, but he was back playing.
Yeah, him and Fraser played today, and it was fun to watch them play. Nigel Reed kept calling him Levy. So at first I was like, oh, he's not. I don't think he's playing, but I thought I saw him, and then I realized he was calling him by the wrong name. But,
I wouldn't go with anything that Nigel says.
No.
Yeah.
A dog's just shaking. She agrees.
He set up the opening goal. It was a corner, and he put in the ball that led to the goal.
It was nice to see him playing again. And the question that I asked after the match to a few of the Valour guys, and I mean, I'll put it to you guys now as well. But before I do that, let's just hear what Rob Gale had to tell me after the match. The tournament, obviously, you've spent months preparing for this. It's over within 7 games. What does the rest of the year look like now for you? Are you looking to maybe get some of these guys out on loan, get some local friendlies? I mean, it's going to be difficult, I know, but I mean, the group seems to have such good foundation just now that it's a shame to let things just suddenly move away.
It's Canada, mate. It's Canadian football. We've had the same with the national teams. We're trying to get young players playing. By the way, total up our under 20 minutes and compare it to anybody else in this tournament because we've smashed it well over double our nearest competitors. And we'll give them as many chances as we can, but there's nothing. 3 or 4 of the lads are coming back to Winnipeg. So if I played a game against some locals, it'll be a 5-a-side indoor. They'll be playing in the same league that me and Damien are during the winter to keep fit. The problem we have in Winnipeg, we haven't got the base, we haven't got the numbers, so we won't see these players again until March. And it's a challenge. It is what it is. We know that. We'll try and find as many outlets and environment because these boys need games. I mean, look at the development of the players. Julian Dunn over 7 games, absolutely magnificent. Federico, Raf O'Heen, all these boys, they need games, they need competitive environments. I think we need to look at it as a league to try and do something between now and March because this idea of a tournament, almost like the MLS's back one, would be awesome in January if we could get players back and in environments quicker. So I think it's a collective thing we need to search for the good of the Canadian game.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Maybe talk a little bit as well just about the foundations that you've now got in the squad moving forward. You certainly have depth this year that was tested to the full this tournament, but it looks like you've got a really strong group there. Moses talked about it as well. This is an exciting group going forward. What do you feel you maybe need to add to it now to take the guys to the next level and to be qualifying for, I'd say, a tournament like this into the next round?
I think we should have qualified here. If you look at the Halifax game, we deserved 3 points. The Pacific second half, we just didn't put the ball in the net. We were valued for, I think, 12 points in this tournament so far as a minimum. So I'm gutted that the guys haven't got their reward. A couple of games, couple of decisions. Master catch a penalty against York was a stone cold one. The Austin Ricci one today. Little moments like that give us 6 more points, 4 more points rather than just taking 1. So fine margins, but like you say, let's focus on what we controlled, and the depth is there. We were going to get a centre forward in who can also double up as a winger that was playing top level Serbia. Unfortunately, with COVID, we couldn't get the visa and the paperwork through. We've got a monumental centre back in Amir Soto, Panamanian centre-back, CONCACAF level, international player. So that gives us back there. And then we want to keep a lot of the pieces we have this year. But I think if we're going forward, maybe a 9 and a 10, and people will come in and create that little bit of magic in the final third and put the ball in the net. That was the only thing that we're missing. And I think it's coming. Look, 2 again today, but we should have had more. Moses was unlucky not to get 2 or 3. Say Austin got pulled down there, and then Raf nearly got the winning goal. Good save by the youngster. So congratulations to him on his debut.
Cheers, Rob. Always a pleasure chatting to you.
Take care, Mike. All the best, mate. We'll see you soon.
So for 4 of these teams, Valour, Edmonton, Atletico Ottawa and York 9, that's their season over. So they've had months to prepare, months of uncertainty as to what's going on. Now they have a couple of frantic weeks to play 7 games, and that is it until April next year. And Rob Gale said he's only going to have 3 or 4 players going back now to Winnipeg. Everyone else is going to Canada, around the world. I mean, it's not a situation that's great for Valour or these other teams. Rob wants something in place for the CPL to maybe have an Island Games pre-season tournament in January, so you can bring players in early, evaluate the players you want to look at as well, trialists, stuff like that. But something needs to happen in Canada soccer, because some of these guys can maybe go on loan to Europe or whatever if they're lucky enough to have a passport to do that. For other guys, they need to be playing. Like James Pantemis, the keeper for one, like he's not going to go and now suddenly dislodge Diop in Montreal, but he's had an outstanding tournament. What happens to him?
No, I agree. I think they should, at least the minimum they should have done is they should have had like a loser's bracket or whatever. You could title it whatever you want. So they could have played a few more games and maybe just done it for seeding purposes for next year or something like that. They could have came up with some reason for doing it. So maybe next year's CPL will be seeded a certain way. So they could have done that. They could have came up with something. If they had come up with this earlier, they could have done like a double, like a double tournament kind of thing, like played half the season in one place and then played half the season in another place. But they took too long to bring this package together. It's a good thing they got this out because as we talked before, other leagues in Canada, other more established leagues in Canada were not able to put a season together, and it's good that they got some continuity in. So they can say that they got something in this year, and then next year they come in strong. Well,
League One Ontario has announced now that they are not having a season this year, and that's just Ontario teams. But because of the level of play, and we're facing that here with like VMSL, Fraser Valley League, and the Island League right now, the phase that they are in only allows them to have limited contact. So in a match, for example, if they were to play a match just now under the current conditions, they're not allowed to take throw-ins. It would only be kick-ins. They're not allowed to handle the ball, which seems ridiculous. You're on the pitch with these guys and the keeper's handling the ball. So I mean, yeah. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
No, but if you're gonna have those rules, you might as well just not play the game then.
Yeah, but that's the worry.
I forget which league it is, but one of the leagues, I think it might be the Valley League that I heard, is actually playing this year. But Michael, you're right in terms of, and Steve, you're right. It would have been nice for them to have something else. I think the clear answer, the reason why they didn't have more for these 4 teams that will only play the 7 games, is simply a financial decision. I don't think it's helpful for them to be out there for longer, to have to pay for them to stay out there longer, to play games that are seeding games or consolation games. I don't think that helps them in terms of broadcasting them anywhere, CBC or even One Soccer or whatever. And so I think that's why ultimately they said, yeah, this is just gonna be all that it is. Michael, I like your idea, or your Rob Gale's idea or whatever, of having like a preseason tournament, an Island Games style preseason tournament. I think one of the great things about the CPL being a new league, and we've talked about this many times under different circumstances in the past, is it allows them to be flexible. It allows them to be creative. It allows them to try new things. And we know that football leagues around the world, because you wanted this mix of this flexibility, this willingness to do these different things, but there's also like football tradition as well. And so, I mean, football tradition, like there's not all countries, but many countries have multiple cups within their league, right? So you're playing for the league title, you're playing for like your domestic cup, but then you also in the in England or whatever, in like France, you have a league cup, like you have a secondary cup, and having a preseason tournament that is like that kind of secondary cup could be a good thing in the long term, right? Like I think in some ways they could have even done this last year when they went to the Caribbean for preseason.
Yeah, because they were in the Dominican
against each other. I honestly don't think you're going to see that happen in January or February, but it is something they probably should think about, like long term. Could we do something that could be meaningful, that could be broadcast, but we also could have money for it, for the winners and a trophy, and build something to be meaningful so that, years down the road, it is a part of our culture, right? Even like in Germany, they've done like a 4-team preseason tournament kind of thing for a League Cup in the past.
And you could do the same, like you could do an island games on the West Coast, on Vancouver Island. You could even move it back and forth. Do one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, and alternating back and forth.
Well, if you're doing it in January, then it makes sense to have it in Vancouver Island, because I don't think you could be playing it on PEI come January time. And I mean, that would be fantastic to kick the season off. It was something that I was hoping to ask David Clanahan before Robbie mentioned it, because I'd thought, this is such a good tournament. It would be such a waste not to have this tournament going forward in some form, and pre-season makes a lot of sense to me to do that, whether it's January, whether it's March, whatever. But I mean, you could even use it to seed the Canadian Championship if things are back to normal as to who enters at what stage or something like that. Just give it some kind of meaning. And yeah, something has to happen to get somewhere for these guys to play. That's the problem. And it's difficult in a country like Canada because you've got the winter problems with weather and everything like that.
New Mixology asks, what about Baffin Island games?
Oh, I just remember Baffin Islands from an old Tony Hancock sketch. He was a 1950s UK comedian, and he was sent to Baffin Island. And I'd never heard of Baffin Island before I watched that, which I'll stress I didn't watch in the 1950s. I did watch the repeat of that. But the other game that was on Saturday, Cavalry against York. Now, that's a rivalry that I'm enjoying. I thoroughly enjoyed the build-up to this, and in particular, Tommy Wheeldon's Friday press conference that I got up at 7:30 in the morning to be on, just because I knew it was going to be good. I just love the way that Tommy Wheeldon approaches games and just approaches football. Everything, it's obviously like from coming from the same UK background, I think it's why. When he's on the sidelines, Jeff Paulus actually said, well, I mean, Tommy just yells for everything. He's yelling at the referees, appealing for everything. And Jeff's like, maybe I need to be more vocal. Maybe I need to be like that. And maybe I'll get calls. Tommy works the sidelines great. And his mind games and the build-up to games is fantastic as well. Because he was playing the, well, York's never beaten us card. And he even mentioned, even going back to when we played in the Dominican Republic, they couldn't beat us there. And that's going back like nearly 2 years. And he's just bringing that up. And he just has little digs. And then someone asked him, York's unbeaten in the tournament. What do you think is behind that success for them? And it's like, well, I mean, if they like drawing that much, I mean, they can have a draw against us. I'd be happy with that. Although he got his facts wrong, because if they'd drawn this, Cavalry were in deep trouble, because I think they would have been out, depending on what happened on Sunday. And I didn't realise that until folk were talking about it today. A draw would have been enough for York to go through. Cavalry deserved 1-0 winners. It was one of those things with Tommy's teams, you always feel, and we spoke about this last week, that they've got it in them to get a goal. And they did. They were comfortable, and I'm glad they're in the top four because they deserve to be in the top four. And the way the results went on Sunday, York, one of the pre-tournament favourites, what I'd kind of tipped dark horse by many people, they're out of the tournament.
And the thing is we're going back to, just I want to quickly go back to the Cavalry game, because we should talk about this. It was a little bittersweet because there was a serious injury in there. When you look at the replay, and apparently I didn't see this, One Soccer showed the replay multiple times.
They did. They went way overboard with it.
Yeah. It was basically what it looked like to me is that the follow-through that he had on the kick struck the player, and it basically, because it had no give on the turf, that's where the break happened. I don't think the break happened when he landed, when he went over and landed on his leg. I think it happened
like his whole leg when he was buckled.
It did, but the thing is when he that might have been a different thing. But when he was going over, going over, you could see his bottom half of his leg, and this might sound gruesome, was very loose.
Yeah,
and it was kind of like wobbly, so you could tell that the break happened beforehand. He might have done some more damage afterwards. I don't know, but it was a pretty gruesome injury. I don't like. You were saying at least a yellow. I don't know. It was a borderline yellow for me because while it was he didn't even go into the player. He was basically just in front of him.
For me, under old rules, no. I think it was a fine challenge. I think it was fair. But with the new rules, which I'm still really struggle sometimes to get my head around, it does seem to be if you come in at speed and one of your feet at least is off the ground, then that's a red card. And Thompson did do that. It's the speed that you come in.
He made no contact with the Calgary player at all. He made zero contact with him, like directly. Like he didn't slide into his leg. The Cavalry's player's leg went into the York defender Thompson. So there was no where it was a direct contact with the leg at all.
This is a hard one. I don't know where because I hear what you're saying, Steve, but I also think as a player is going to kick the ball, if I go in front of him and he gets hurt because he kicks me, don't I have some culpability in that? And I mean, there's been lots of there's been lots of concern expressed over this, as I've been talking to supporters from around the league. There've been extreme frustration over the fact that One Soccer tweeted it out, and put it out there, for people to watch over and over again. Some people are fine with that, some people aren't. But yeah, I'm a little bit not torn. I don't know. I mean, it's just sad that Oliver Mintel's has broken bone or broken bones. You can hear the dude wail on the broadcast. That's how you know it was bad. It wasn't like I'm trying to get a call wail either. It was a sincere
you could tell that there was a major injury.
That was the other thing though with the One Soccer coverage. They focused in heavily on him and his face and stuff. I didn't like that. Even when he was going off, they did as well. And it's like Steve Sander tweeted out that this was a good thing for One Soccer to learn how not to cover stuff. I mean, I don't mind seeing the incident, but not over and over and over, which they did. And I retweeted their tweet just because I was making a comment on it anyway, and for folk that hadn't been watching.
Well, sir, one of the comments I did see on it was a concern over, hey, we're trying to develop skilled players in this country, and that's part of having a league. Are tackles like that helpful, or are they just a part of the game?
I mean, it was a really bad challenge. It was a really bad injury. Just to give an update for everyone, Minitel went to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Charlottetown immediately from the match. He got surgery that night. He sustained a fractured tibia and fibula. And they did post a picture of him all kind of bandaged up, giving the thumbs up as well on Cavalry's Twitter account. So everyone here at AFTN wishes Oliver all the best for a speedy recovery. He is going to stay with the team for the remainder of the Island Games. And I mean, when the winning goal went in, they ran over and they kissed his jersey. And I think in a lot of ways, obviously it's a horrible thing to have happened, but this could be the spark, this could be the inspiration that kind of spurs Cavalry on to actually bring the championship home now. But yeah, I get that there's a lot of debate about this tackle. Some people think it should have been a red, some people think it should be a yellow, some people don't think it was anything at all. So, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask the coaches this. What's your thoughts on CPL getting VAR? Because it feels like it's badly needed, because some of the refereeing has been really poor in this first phase. I don't want to pile on the refs, but I mean, it's true.
I don't think it's feasible right now for them, whether it's financially or technically they'll be able to do it, because some of the stadiums probably wouldn't be able to handle it. So I'm not as sure. It might be something that they could look into 2 or 3 years down the road. So, yeah, it's probably not going to happen right away.
Yeah, I think Steve's right. The financial part of it will make it hard for them. But you're also right, Michael, in that it is needed.
They could do that, like that said. There's one Central American referee who did the VAR symbol, but didn't actually have VAR. I remember that happened a year and a half ago.
Maybe we could get them to do that to us, and then we could be the adjudicating panel. I feel for Forge if that's the case.
Vote by Twitter. Vote by Twitter.
Yes. Oh, of course. Twitter's the best place to get a proper answer.
As long as they don't put their One Soccer expert in charge of it.
Oh.
But just to wrap up the Cavalry and York game, 1-0 win for Cavalry takes them through to the final four as the number one seeds as well after it all. That's how close everything was. A draw or a defeat, they could have been going home, a win, and they're top of the standings. But I just want to bring you a little bit of audio just to round this part off. I spoke to Tommy Wheeldon Jr. and Nick Ledgerwood after the match, just to get their thoughts about what that match was like to play in, and just the never say die and always fighting to the end spirit that Tommy Wheeldon has basically instilled in all his teams that we've seen play over the years. Teams that you've built over the years, they've always got character. You always believe that you're going to get a breakthrough, you're going to get the goals that you need. The longer this one went on today, did you still have that belief? How nervous was that for you on the sideline?
These are the games you want to be involved in. I think I said that prior, is because if you want to build a championship aspiring team, you've got to be in these must-win games. And we've shown different ways to win through this tournament. So you look at Edmonton, I thought we outpassed them today. I think we outworked York 9. It was simply we played against probably one of the best, if not the best, midfield three and suffocated them. And that speaks volumes to the players. But as the game went on, no, I knew we were going to get something. We were probing. We were having questions asked. I mean, Marcus Abers had one incredible save by Nate Ingham from the corner. We'd worked on a few little trick set plays. Nico Pasquotti was back, to his best, I thought, dropping in pockets. Didn't feel like they were going to score, if I'm honest, because of the way the guys were backed themselves. So I wasn't getting nervous per se. I was getting excited, if anything. I think you can see the reactions from when we did score.
The further the game went on, I think the more and more we felt like we were going to get rewarded. And you mentioned the teams that Tommy's built. He built a team around the character and quality of players, and that's exactly what we showed today. Is the character of each and every one of us, and at the end of the day, the little bit of quality that's needed to win a game.
Tommy Wheeldon Jr. and Nick Ledgerwood there talking about Cavalry FC's fighting spirit. They're through to the final four. Forge are through to the final four. Sunday saw the last two matches of Phase 1. 2 more teams went through. 2 more teams went home. We'll find out exactly who they were and talk about that and look forward to the second phase after this.
Hey, it's Marco Bustos. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the final part of tonight's AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And as always, kicking off this final part is the final selection for tonight's Three of a Kind. And it's a song you'll all know, but a version you probably won't. That was Brix Smith, former wife of Marquis Smith from The Fall, with a song from her 1997 EP, Happy Unbirthday. The song, of course, was Space Odyssey, a cover of the David Bowie classic from 1969. Did you work out what the link was this week? We kicked off part 3 with Cosmonauts and Carbonauts from the Yummy Fur. We kicked off part 4 with The Day Lassie Went to the Moon by Camper Van Beethoven. And Space Oddity there by Brix Smith. The link this week that I was looking for was astronauts, spacemen, space dogs, something of that ilk, and especially the kind that go to the moon. Did you get the link this week? If you did, well done. Did you guess that Space Oddity might be the final song? Again, if you did, well done. And we'll be back next week with another 3 of a kind. But let's turn our attention back to football, back to the Canadian Premier League, and back to the Island Games. Sunday saw the final 2 matches of the first phase of the tournament, with all still to play for. Forge and Cavalry had sealed their spots in the final 4 on Saturday. Valour FC were eliminated. York Nine's hopes were hanging by a thread. FC Edmonton had already been eliminated. But going into these final 2 matches on Sunday, 4 teams still had hopes of filling those final 2 spots. The first game was very much a winner-takes-all one between Halifax Wanderers and Atletico Ottawa. Halifax just needed a win or a draw to get through. Ottawa had to get the win. Turned out to be a 2-0 win for Halifax, and they claimed their berth in the final 4, so well done to Stephen Hart's men for that. And that just left one match to go. The final match of Phase 1. Last placed FC Edmonton, already eliminated, taking on Pamadouka's Pacific FC. If Pacific won, they were in the final 4. A draw or a defeat, and they were out, and York 9 would move into the next phase of the competition. And what a tense afternoon it was out at PEI. Squeaky bum time indeed. Easton Ongaro fired FC Edmonton into a 1-0 lead in the 59th minute, pouncing on a loose ball after Callum Irving was unable to hold on to it. But Pacific came roaring back. 19-year-old Josh Herd, who'd been playing VISL soccer up before this tournament, levelled things for Pacific in the 64th minute. And with the time ticking down, the minutes ticking away, you needed a hero. You wanted your captain to be that hero. Up stepped Marc Bustos with an absolutely beautiful goal, one of the goals of the tournament, to curl a superb strike into the corner of the net, giving Pacific the 2-1 lead. It was a lead they held on to, moving into the final 4. Well done to all at Pacific, well done to Pamadouka in his first taste of management, and very well deserved as well. I just want to bring you some audio now from after the game. Just a couple of questions that I put to Pa and to Marco Bustos. Like, you've been through these games as a player. What was it like being on the sideline, like watching it and not being able to kick the ball? And what have you learned as a coach over these last 7 games, do you feel, that's kind of improved your coaching style?
That as a coach, you have got no control. Once the whistle starts, it's gone. Once the whistle starts, it's just up to the players. You can try to affect it as much as you can, and that's why half times are very important. Water breaks were important, but you know, it's you prepare the boys, and then once the whistle blow, I mean, it's just up to the players. You know, and you can try to change a thing or two, but you, as a coach, you're always going to be a little bit too late to the party. But I mean, again, at halftime, we're able to make some changes, but also through the hard work that James Merriman, Riley O'Neill, Mark Village, and myself have prepared for the preparation. Like, we could see it, and we could see it today, and that was a huge factor. But I mean, all the credit to the boys. As a coach, you just hope that they could find another gear in what they did. So for me, it's just every single game I'm learning about my team. I'm learning about myself as a coach, what works, what doesn't work. But being in these type of games, I mean, it's all about characters and heart. And that's what we said at halftime. I'm like in this type of games, it's your heart, is your mentality. And it's your heart and mentality that will carry you and that will show you whether you deserve to go through or not. And we proved that. And over the course of the 7 games, I think and believe that the boys did enough to deserve to qualify.
What's it been like playing under Pa? It's like, I know the two of you have a good relationship going back years, but I mean, what's it been like with his motivational style, when the teams needed a lift, he seems to be able to give you that lift.
Yeah, he's very passionate. Obviously, you can all see that. You all know that. But playing under him gives you that extra motivation. You know, when you have a coach and the whole group wants to play for those coaches, it makes the game so much easier. You know, it makes the group, the collective, much more together. He's a real leader, and we're just trying to follow in his footsteps. You know, he played at the highest level, and obviously we all dream to play at that level, and we just keep going as a group, as a collective. And he's very family orientated, which is what he's trying to do with Pacific FC. You know, bring in good human beings first of all, and obviously all good players, which is important. But to him is, you know, he would rather have an average player but a good human than a good player and someone that's a bit of a cancer to the team. So that's what he's done well with him and his coaching staff, creating this team, and we just keep going.
Modou and Marco Bustos there. Cock-a-hoop his Pacific move into the next round. And it's just been a joy watching Pacific so far in this tournament. And Modou on the sidelines, great entertainment, great guy, great character off the pitch as well. Pacific's very lucky to have him in charge. But for every winner, there's got to be a loser. And unfortunately for FC Edmonton, they really struggled in this tournament. Finished bottom of the standings. Just one single point from their 7 matches. No wins, 1 draw. Just 5 goals for and 14 against. But the foundations certainly look to be there. We talked about that in the last part with Valour. It's the same as true with Edmonton, particularly on the defensive side. It's just creatively and in attack that they really struggled. So what's next for them? What's next for Jeff Paulus? He did speak a couple of games ago that he felt it might be time for some new blood in charge of the Eddies. Well, I just want to bring you some audio from Jeff Paulus now after that final match with Pacific. So we hear a couple of questions from myself and then also one from CPL Soccer's Marty Thompson. That's obviously the tournament over now for you guys. When you look back over the last seven games, what have you learned about your team? It looks like you've got a lot of foundations to build upon, especially on the defensive side. What's your biggest takeaways from the tournament?
Yeah, it's just it's just details of the game, isn't it? You know, I really don't feel like we've been severely outplayed. You know, and maybe there's the 1 or 2 odd supporters that'll call me daft for saying it, but I have to tell you, I'm happy with these players throughout. And right from the very first game against Forge, I thought we could have had a result. And then you see, though, it was just the one moment, you know, the free kick today that we gave up on a ball that was played backwards. There was really it was an unnecessary foul to take, and we took it. These are just the little moments that I think have cost us, you know, quite dearly in this event. But you know, what we take away, though, is that we've got committed players at this club. And, you know, I've been fighting for our players from day one here, you know, because quite frankly, I read some things from you know, the odd fan that says some things about our players that are just plain wrong, you know. So I remind that fan that tattoos are for life. But, you know, as far as a group, though, I'm happy with them. There's a lot to build on here. You're right. Defensively, there's a foundation. We've got young players coming up. And what a performance by Chance Carter today. Prince Amanda, Marcus Vallado. I thought Anthony Caceres came on the game as another young player as the number 10 in the second half and was unbelievable. So, yeah, full credit to the group again. And but, you know, this is a process. We knew the 7 games was going to be what it is. But I think the process is I want to say that, you know, the process will continue, and you'll do that with the base of players that have played in this event.
We spoke, I think, back in May, and you were looking forward to the season. You didn't know what it was going to be. There's been so much preparation go into this year, and it's done in 7 games. What does the rest of the year look like for the team? I mean, these young guys, it might be 7-8 months before they're competitively playing again. Do you look to try and get some kind of loan deals for some of them, maybe over in Europe, or just to try and get something to get them going?
No, absolutely. We'll definitely do that with some of the players that have the opportunity to go on loan. We'll certainly explore that. We've created a partnership with an organization in Germany to help get our players on loan. We'll also be training here. So when we get back, we'll of course take a couple of days off, but we'll be right back in training at FC Edmonton. And because this is too long a time for players to sit off and not work on their trade. So we'll get back on training, get somewhere home and try find, depending on what COVID says, we'll try find the odd friendly, if we can, and keep these players playing.
Yeah, just to piggyback off Michael's question there, like what is next for the club right now? Is that just kind of all that you have planned? Can you plan any more than that?
Yeah, you know what? Get home, take a deep breath, take a couple of days off, and sit down. I mean, I'll certainly be having a meeting with Tom Fath, upon my return, and we'll decide the best way for this club to move forward. And I said in my post-game interview that, I absolutely love this club. I've been with this club a long time, and I will act in the best interest of FC Edmonton, whatever that means. And that'll be a decision that I make with Tom. And but I want to see this club succeed, and I'm willing to do my part to make sure that happens. So we'll figure that out, Marty, when I get back.
So Jeff Paulus there, just musing about Edmonton's future, his future. We'll see what lies in store for both. But we now know the 4 teams that are going to be battling it out for the Island Games Championship, battling it out as well for a place in this year's Canadian Championship final. Cavalry topped the standings at the end of Phase 1, 13 points from their 7 games. Halifax Wanderers were second with 12 from their 7. Forge third, also 12 from their 7. And Pacific FC getting the 4th and final place, 11 points from their 7 matches. The action gets back underway on Wednesday with a pair of games. Halifax taking on Forge at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Cavalry taking on Pacific at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Then on Saturday we've got Forge against Pacific at 9 a.m. and Cavalry against Halifax at 12 noon. Those 2 games will be on CBC, with the Forge and Pacific game being on an hour delay. Then all week on Tuesday we'll see the final 2 games of Phase 2 before the following Saturday is the big championship game. It's been great action so far. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. There's been some great goals, there's been some great individual performances. It's been highly enjoyable, highly entertaining. Even the poor refereeing can't spoil that for me. But what lies in store now in this next phase? It's been so intense in these first 7 games. The players are almost dead on their feet. Can they now rise again and bring another 3 performances out of them? It's going to be tough for them. And I just want to bring you a little bit of audio now from 2 of the guys that will feature in this Final 4. Going to hear first from Cavalry FC's Nick Ledgerwood, and then from Pacific FC's Marco Bustos. And you're into the next phase now. What are you expecting from this next phase? Because obviously every single game mattered, every single point's going to matter. There's very little room for error. Do you expect kind of more cagey affairs like today's game, or do you think it's going to be a bit more open?
I think it'll depend on how many fit players are going to be out on the field. By the looks of it, players are dropping left, right, and center. So I think we have a very good depth in our team that we've been believing in the process of rotating players and making sure everybody's fit and healthy. And I think we have a very healthy team going forward. So, I think there's 2 more spots, I believe, open in the Final 4. So we'll have to see who grabs those, and then we can kind of pick it apart once we get further.
The first 7 games, they've been so intense. Stephen Hart talked earlier, his players, they're like dead on their feet and now they have to lift themselves again for the next phase. What are you expecting this next phase to be like? Do you think it's going to be open? Do you think it's going to be a lot more cagey? Because there's very little room for error.
Yeah, it's obviously, like everyone knows, obviously we're all in the same boat. We all have played seven games and going to go on to 3 more. So that's just another battle. I don't know. I've never played 8 games in this amount of time, or 10 games in this amount of time. So it's I don't know what to expect, to be honest, but I know we just got to go out and best prepare ourselves, have a good recovery, and come out and try to win the next game, and just think about that one game ahead. But we're definitely going to need some good rest for sure.
So just the thoughts there of Nick Ledgerwood and Marco Bustos about what to expect from these games coming up in Phase 2. It's also a question I put to all 4 of the head coaches that are left remaining. So I'm going to give you their thoughts now. What are they expecting from these games? Is it going to be cagey affairs? Or is it going to be more open games? Partly because players are tired, but also because every point is a premium at this stage, and if you don't go for it, what's the point of being in it? Well, we're going to hear the thoughts of Cavalry FC's Tommy Wheeldon Jr., Forge FC's Bobby Smirniotis, Halifax Wanderers Stephen Hart, and Pamadou Ka from Pacific FC.
I don't know. I mean, we cycled the ball quite well because York chose a tactic to sit very deep and let us have it. And we wanted to stretch them a bit. We wanted to play in the spaces behind, back them up a bit, and then start moving the ball across the back 3 in our holding mid, which I thought we did quite well in stages. So we'll just play what the opposition gives us. If they want to press us, like what Halifax did, we'll try and look at the spaces. If they want to drop low, like York did, we'll try and find, be patient with our probing. But I think it's now going to be a tournament of resilience. The team with the fittest bodies, and I'll be honest, we've got bodies that are hurting. We've got a lot of unfortunate injuries to our front lines. But what we do have is players that will play out of position, like Bruno Zebi's playing out wide, and then in the middle, Jordan Brown's an out-and-out striker, and he's covering back at left midfield. Nico Pasquotti switched for Oliver, playing in the attacking midfield, then out at right wing. Lads will just do whatever needs to be done, and that's what our strengths are.
Well, there's 2 ways to look at it. One, it's every game is kind of a championship match because it sets you up for the next one. One thing we've learned quickly here is that the fatigue injuries are a major factor in how games go and how things happen. So, I think games may start off cagey, but as they go on, fatigue starts kicking in, and sometimes you see a little bit of what we saw today, which is a little bit more transition football, especially in that last 15 to 20 minutes with teams going back and forth at each other. So it's interesting because when you look at the physical load on the players, it's immense. It's immense what the players are doing over this time span. I commend all of them, not just my players, but every single player in this league for the performances they've been able to give on the field. And I think there's a lot of quality football. But that's one thing I expect in the next round. We don't have a week from now until the next one. It's 3 days for some of the teams that are playing tomorrow, and we'll move on to the next round. They'll have 2 days. So I think games are going to look different in the first half and the second half of the next round.
It's going to be difficult for the games to be open, to be honest. I mean, everybody's in the same situation. I mean, there are a couple of teams that are in the final now that, they had the early phase of a lot of games, but they got almost a week off. And that's going to be, that has a huge impact in terms of all their players being in a certain state mentally and physically. But really and truly, I haven't thought much about this Final Four yet and how I go into the games, etc., etc. I'll wait till everything plays out in the game later, and then we'll see how we approach things. But I do know the players need to rest.
The 7 games, at the start of the tournament, Tommy Wheeldon said that this tournament was going to be like a war of attrition. Stephen Hart mentioned earlier this morning that his players are like dead on their feet and now they kind of have to lift themselves again. What are you expecting from this next phase? Do you think it's going to be tired teams out there, or because every point is a premium just now, teams are just going to go for it?
I mean, now that you have your 7 games and you're in the top 4, I mean, if you're not trying to go for it, why you even in the top 4? You understand what I mean? So right now at this point, you always had to go for it. And for us, we play the game to win. All right. So any game we go in, we are going to play to win. And to see them dig that much, obviously it's a short turnaround. But sometimes you don't got time to think, because you look at the Premier League, you look at Champions League. It's a game every 3 days. So, and it's a huge test for these boys, but it's different because they haven't played for 300 and something days before they came to this tournament. And the tournaments wise, all the teams I think played good football. Like Edmonton was very unlucky, but you have to give credit to them. They battled to the last moment in those 7 games, and in those 7 games they were always in the game, and they were just unlucky that they couldn't find the net. Ongaro didn't find it, but to have a coach like Jeff Paulus in them has been brilliant. And for me, just to see a guy like him, I have so much respect for him and how he deals with his patience. You know, it's. But credit to every team, even Valour. You know, Valour who fought till the last minute. Unfortunately, having a lot of injuries, you know, didn't help them. You know, and same for Atletico and same for York. You know, and I think the quality of the league is just going to grow and get better. And the teams that are left is going to fight for it. And I think we're going to see tired legs. We're going to see everything. But I think the adrenaline and just knowing that you have a chance to win something will carry everybody. There's no player that will ever play 100% during his season. So
the thoughts there of all 4 head coaches that remain in the Island Games. Looking forward to seeing what lies in store. As I said, the first games are back on Wednesday. If you get a chance to take them in, make sure you do. That's pretty much it for tonight's show, but just before we go, I want to just get your thoughts on Victor Montagliani. This is going to come as a shock, I know. It looks like these World Cup qualifiers aren't going ahead in September and October. We said it was never going to happen. Now they're looking at maybe November, but probably March. I don't know.
November, probably March. Big difference. It's just a matter of scheduling. They have to have the schedule ready to go. And I'm sure they have multiple schedules for this because they know it's probably going to get delayed. So I wasn't surprised that, like we all said, it wasn't going to happen. But you can't expect them to, you know, maybe, you know, the Russian vaccine comes into play and everybody's healthy again in a couple months and maybe they're ready to go. So they have to have them ready to go. But yeah, November, I don't even think November is going to happen. I think March, or they might even, you know what the crazy thing is, they might have to delay the World Cup. What if they have to do that for a year? It's possible.
I'm sure they'll get away not to. And they'll just be like, oh, we'll just go in FIFA rankings.
Well, now they got the bubble thing. Like, I'm sure they could have done the Euros back in June if they knew how successful the bubble would be. So they probably can do the bubble thing in for the World Cup or in future tournaments.
One of the problems with that Euro was it was the first Euro to be scheduled to happen across
multiple places.
Yeah,
or across Europe. Yeah, which I mean they still could have chose 1 or 2 of them, but yeah.
The Gold Cup. It's been announced for 2021 and 2023. We're going to have some special guests attending. Yes, Qatar are going to win the 2021 and the 2023 Gold Cup. Definitely the 2021. I'm pretty sure all the Brazilians will have buggered off by the time 2023 comes round and the World Cup's finished.
Is it going to be still held in the US?
I think so,
yeah. Yeah, whatever. They've done that in the past. They've invited other countries before. I think Brazil was there 1 year. Mexico,
Colombia, South Korea.
Mexico's supposed to be there. Yeah, South Korea.
Okay. On that note, let's just wrap it up. Thank everyone for watching. Very much appreciated. Thank everyone for listening. Before we go, let everyone know where they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at WhitecapsBeat.
For me, it's at Zachary AM.
I'm Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada, on Instagram at AFTN Soccer. Give us a follow as well on here at YouTube. Please like, please subscribe, turn on notifications, leave comments, all the stuff that's going to help us get our algorithms up. If you can help us get to 1,000 subscribers as well, that would be fantastic because then we can monetize this. So as always, thanks so much for listening. Take care, stay safe everyone, and finally, Mon the Caps. Yes, 3 points. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
Minutes
Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers, away from the numbers.